So the first question I have for you is how did you become interested in working in animation?
Yeah, so I think the earliest memory that I've had is watching the behind the scenes to Bambi on VHS. And I remember as a kid, I just remember Walt Disney coming out talking about the ink department, and they're showing the women inking Bambi on cell sheets and how they would composite it onto backgrounds. And I thought that was the coolest thing. I was like, oh, wow, I want to draw animals. I want to light or I want to paint and I want to animate Bambi. And that's all I knew. So that was when I was like a child, but I didn't know animation existed. I didn't know about 3D. I didn't know about art. I just knew that that was something that I liked. And nobody told me that art was a career until middle school. That's when you start seeing and you start taking art classes and music classes. And I just remember being so hooked on anime. And one of the animes that I would draw on repeat was Inuyasha. So that was one anime that where I just, drew manga, drew Studio Ghibli style, like anything related to anime. And in that moment, I thought I wanted to be a 2D animator. And I was gun ho on that. I was set because that was the only thing that I knew, and the equipment that I had was just pen and pencil. And so I didn't have a computer. I didn't know anything about computers or softwares. And at the time, I just heard a lot of no's, that being an artist was not a career that was stable or possible. And animation specifically was just unknown territory. So coming from a Mexican household was just like, no, that's not what we're doing. We're not being an art student. But then I switched over to music for a little bit through middle school, a little bit up into high school. And then in high school, that's where I'm from Houston, and there's nothing related to animation here. So back then it was very unknown. But until like 10th grade, I think, I just remember seeing a piece of paper on the floor and it said 3D computer animation and had the class number and everything. And I thought it was just like a sign. I was like, oh my gosh, this is a sign that maybe this career is gonna happen. Because during the time, everyone's like, what are you gonna be when you grow up and all of this. But at the time, I'm like, no one, I don't know. I honestly, I'm conflicted. So seeing that piece of paper just gave me so much hope. And I just remember going to the teacher's office during lunch and asking him, like, I want to be in animation. This is what I want to do. And do you teach 2D animation? And he was like, I don't teach 2D animation, but I teach 3D animation. And back then, I was like, okay, can you teach me? I'm not taking your class, but whatever it is. So during my lunch periods, all the way up in for that whole year, I was learning principles of animation with him. And it's so cool because he was working at Real Effects up in Dallas. And at the time I'm like, look, I don't have the funds to travel outside of Texas. And how do I do this? Like, how do I pick my colleges? Can I do this without even going to college? And it was like a yes and no scenario. But the one thing that he told me that I still use today, and what I always compared, I was like, is there anything here in Texas that I can do since I'm closer to home? And he was like, yeah, UT Dallas. And that was the first time I've ever heard of UT Dallas. And my heart was already set on UTD. So, but one piece of advice, because I was conflicted between art schools, I was like, well, how do I know that I'm going to get the same education or the same teachings as I would at an art school? And one piece of advice that I still use today is it doesn't matter where you go, it's what you make out of it. And that piece of advice right there, just like, it was like catapulted me into believing that, okay, I can do anything and achieve anything as long as like I'm still have that I still have that mindset of I can do this. And so after working with him during my lunch periods in high school, he left the following year, and then I defaulted back into 2D. And so then when it came to graduation, I didn't know where to go, to be honest. I felt a little lost, a little conflicted, because I'm like, I don't know if I can make the move up to Dallas, and maybe animation isn't going to happen, but I was still animating on the side. And at the time, I wasn't focused on lighting and compositing until I got to UTD. So the push that really pushed me into making that jump in that career was when I did an art gallery here in Houston, and one of I don't forget. I think it was my mom, but she was like, you need to you need to go. You need to make that jump. We need to go up to UTD and just visit the campus. And before I got accepted into UTD, because I was a transfer student, so I was coming in a little bit, during that peak or that moment of just being new to UTD. I went to the industry giants, and so I did all of this research on Dallas of like what is the animation scene like there, what is the film scene like there, and that's when I found industry giants, and that solidified my belief that okay, this is my path, this is what I want to do because Dallas has it. And that's when I got to see Tom and Tony Bancroft and Jorge Gutierrez and just a bunch of cool people that you're just like, wow, they're here in Dallas and they're really advocating for animation here. And so then finally visiting the campus just, oh my gosh, it blew my mind. I was like, okay, this is it. This is going to be my home for the next 4 or 5 years. So yeah, so then after transferring up to Dallas and then making that big leap, I then just kind of, yeah, started making friends and yeah, it felt right. It felt right to be there. But then, yeah, and then after that, like I kind of moved away from 3D animation and that's when I found lighting because I didn't know lighting or different departments were a thing in animation until I got to UTD. So after that, I was like, never mind animation. I want to do lighting and compositing. It was all because of an orange. We were lighting an orange in our first class. So that whole little journey of everything got me into animation. And so all of those moments solidified my move up to Dallas.
Thank you for sharing all that. That's a powerful story, I will say. And for you, during your time as an ATEC student at UT Dallas, how did that time help you out with pursuing your goals of working in animation?
Yeah. Oh man. Okay. So, working individually is very challenging. And moving up to Dallas, I didn't think I would meet all of the incredible people that I've met during my time at ATEC. I literally thought, coming from Houston and doing animation, maybe I won't find my tribe or my my best friends. Now that I call my best friends, um, doing it alone was a challenge because it's better to do things when we're all together. And so during my time at ATEC, yeah, just spending a lot of times in the labs. Like there would be moments where it's like you get out of class and then you go straight to the labs, and that's how I met a lot of my best friends now, where we would just stay in the labs and work on so many cool things like our classwork, but then it gravitated to, hey, it'd be cool if we did a short animation. And so then we'd spend extra hours, sitting in the labs, just planning out ideas, planning out short ideas, storyboarding, and coming up with concepts and ideas. So yeah, that really gave a spark to, wow, this is what collaborating is like in the animation, or I guess the animation industry. But we were just doing it because we loved it and we just like fed off of each other's energy. And so then we would take classes together. And so at that point we were dangerous because we were friends already. And then we became friends during class. And that's how we powered through a lot of like these moments during Anim Lab or working on short films on the side and even capstone. I think the community at UTD is really what sold me, like that's, or not sold me, but the creation portion of that, like being able to find like-minded people that were just as driven and passionate and creative, and creating that sort of community there at UTD was just like, wow, this is unbelievable. You could go into the labs and everyone's just so like willing to give feedback and then also like have a good time, but also working hard at the same time, like motivating each other, like, no, we're gonna all do this together. So I think my time at ATEC, that was the one portion that really made it worthwhile. And then I guess working at studios on the side with my best friends really made it worthwhile because we're going through school together, and then we got internships at Real Effects and then other places on the side doing smaller commercial work. And looking back at those moments, I was just like, wow, we did that. And we would talk about it too, like just dreaming about these big ideas. And bigger than life, bigger than us. And we would think like, wow, that would be so cool if we did something like that. And then now we're doing it. So, just that whole sense of like community there at UTD is what I didn't expect to find, but creating it was something that I will always and forever look back on. So I didn't do it alone. I can tell you that. I didn't do it alone. And having friends and professors, Professor McCord was my homie. He was the first one that just believed in me through and through. And he was my lighting professor who just said, you know what, you can do it. And that was all I needed to like power through any moment at UTD. And so yeah, going through those moments of, you know what, we can do this together. And that's what really helped me and solidified why ATEC made me as an artist of who I am today. So
And just to respond to what you're saying, a common thing I notice when people talk about ATEC is the community aspect of it,
yeah,
how there's so much support from professors and students alike. So I love that you had that as well during your time as an ATEC student. And for
yeah.
you, since you're since the time that you have graduated, what has your journey been like career wise?
Oof. Okay, so uh, so I graduated in December 2019, and oh man, that was at the brink of the pandemic, right? So uh, yeah, we're a lot of my friends and I were talking about dreaming of the future and all of these dreams and aspirations that we had, and then the pandemic hit, and I honestly believe that really tested my persistence and my mental like okay, Kat, now you gotta own up to what you believe in now, because at this point I just thought maybe this career isn't for me. Like maybe animation isn't gonna happen, and maybe I have to wait, another year or 2 years until something happens. And at first it was a struggle, believing that good things will happen or better days will come. It was challenging during the pandemic when it first hit. So again, having the backbone of supportive friends and family, and just like pushing each other really through those moments of, we'll get through this. I think that really helped out a lot. Um, yeah, it was challenging for sure, but continuing to apply and then also hearing those no's, oh man, those stung a little bit. But after a couple, it was just like, you know what, never mind. I'm numb to this. I can handle anything and everything. Um, yeah, so at first it was a little rocky because you're trying to get your footing in the industry and into any job really. But yeah, then I found the place that I'm at right now, which is Rooster Teeth, and and in that moment, it just felt really really good. So yeah, I think at the beginning it was rough, but keeping that mentality, like no matter where you go, you can make anything happen. And so during those moments, that's when I moved back to Houston. And at that point, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm coming back home to the place where I thought like maybe there would be something a little bit more. But then coming back here, I was like, no, there's so much to create here. And there's like, I'm still working and, you know, creating the community here. Now is the time to do that since I have enough knowledge to like help build something here. So that's in the works. But uh, yeah, just after college and career wise, I think things were rocky, and now things are better. So yeah, I yeah, during those moments, it's just like believing that your journey, the things are happening right now and they're meant to happen, but continuing to move forward and continuing to like think there are better days after this. You just have to keep applying and keep persistence going. I think that's you're gonna see the fruits to all of the things that you're doing in those moments of hardship. So yeah. Career wise, I mean things are better now. But back then it was a little challenging.
Well, first of all, big shout out to you for persevering during a pandemic.
You
Second,
too.
oh,
You
thank you.
too.
And second of all, I'm excited to see what you have planned in the future.
Yeah,
I'm here to see it,
me
and
too.
I think you're gonna thank you, and I think you're gonna have success with that. And just based on all the experiences you've had, what advice would you share to college students right now?
Whew. Okay, I can talk a lot about this. Okay, so everyone out there, growth and in life isn't linear. You don't have to be at a certain age, a certain time in your moment. You go at the pace that you need to go at, and you learn at the pace that you need to learn at. There's no competition to time and growth in life. So that's the first thing. The second thing would be let go of your ego, let go of competitiveness, only compete with yourself. Be better, be the best version that you can for yourself, and create the community that you want to create wherever you're at. And then third, have fun with what you're doing. Okay, especially during these times, I know burnout and thinking that maybe nothing's going to happen in the future. No, have fun with what you're doing in this moment. Have fun working with the people around you, because I feel like when you're having fun, even during hard moments, especially right now, I think that's what will get you through a lot of these moments of, imposter syndrome or doubt. But life and growth isn't linear. Have fun with your work and let go of ego and competitiveness. So, 3 things.
I love that you shared all that, and I believe that advice is going to help. I'm taking that advice myself as you were talking. Like I'm taking that to heart.
You
So I think,
should.
and I think others
Yeah.
will too.
Yeah. Thank you so much. This interview was so much fun, and thank you for catching up. It's been a pleasure.
Oh yeah, most definitely, most definitely. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah.